Easy thing to do is just to buy Bitcoin, accumulate Bitcoin, promote Bitcoin, and it's like having balls. If you're a woman and you want to have balls and you want to compete like the problem with being a fiat billionaire is that you have people constantly telling you, do this, you've got billions, do this, do that. And with fiat money, you do have the ability to influence politics and influence society, but with Bitcoin, you don't.
Yeah.
So it's like they can have fun again. Inevitable, and that can mean a few different things. So inevitable in terms of being a global hyper-Bitcoinization. We're seeing, I guess you'd have to, Scott, compare it to internet adoption in the 90s. I was running an internet company in the 90s, and even after Netscape went public and you had a big surge of use of the internet, there was a period there around 1997 or so where people like Paul Krugman of the New York Times and others were questioning whether or not this internet thing was going to survive, or was it just a fad?
Fax machine.
And then we saw that hockey stick moment. That's the character of exponential growth, is that you've got that doubling effect, that factoring, that exponential growth. And so now I think we're at that hockey stick moment where you see in the next 6 to 9 months doubling of usage from 150 million to 300 million, and then pretty soon we're going to be over 1 billion. And then Bitcoin will be ubiquitous and entrenched and part of everyday life, and people won't even be thinking about it. They'll be using it, but they won't even know they're using it. Just like people use the internet and they don't really think about the protocol that underlies the internet and how it works and why it works. They just use it. Same thing with Bitcoin. It just becomes part of the fabric of our reality. It's happening really fast, but it has a price, and that is what people focus on. And if it's not moving in any given minute of every given day in the direction people want it to move, it becomes like, oh my God, this is not happening as fast as I would. With the internet, it wasn't actually a price that was traded in terms of the where it was in the adoption cycle. Having said that, I'm sure a lot of people would have loved to have the opportunity to actually buy part of the internet, which is what you can do with Bitcoin. You're actually buying something as big as the internet, as ubiquitous as the internet, but you're actually able to own a piece of it. So that's the big difference, and that is what is remarkable in a lot of ways. Well, the design of the protocol invites everyone to join, and it also invites attacks, and the game theoretical aspects of it are intact, and they're working beautifully. So you want as many people to be participating as possible. You want both Russia and Ukraine buying Bitcoin. You want every country to be buying it. You want Wall Street buying it. You want Wall Street trading it. You want Wall Street creating all the derivatives they want to create on top of the Bitcoin stack. The greatest thing we have, though, is the ability to pull our keys off the exchanges. So if they want to create a multi-tiered Ponzi scheme based on a Bitcoin base layer like they do in the gold market, for example, which hasn't had good price discovery now for over 10, 15 years, we have the ability to pull the private keys off the exchange essentially and collapse any major Ponzi scheme. There will be credit cycles. I mean, Bitcoin will still be used as collateral. There's a lot of products here that are being introduced for mortgages and other types of leveraged products, and that's fine. It's pristine collateral. Michael Saylor is now, borrowing against his Bitcoin position
to buy Bitcoin.
To buy Bitcoin. So he's engaged in what I've said many times, is basically he's engaged in a leveraged attack against the dollar, a speculative attack against the US dollar. Remember that pretty much the Michael Saylor playbook is the Trace Mayer playbook. We give a shout out to Trace Mayer, who came up with the 7 networking effects of Bitcoin back in 2010. And he, to the contact that I've had with Trace Mayer, he still is probably one of the biggest Bitcoin holders out there with over 200,000 Bitcoin. And he chose to go radio silent a couple of years ago. But just a shout out. So I am kind of the old man and the historian of Bitcoin now, one of the very few OGs still coming to conferences and talking. Right. But now you see it with Michael Saylor, and success breeds success. So we're going to see other companies and other individuals follow that model. They have the white hot breath of inflation breathing down their neck, and inflation is breaking out, as we've been saying for a while, and it's not transitory, and it's entrenched. It's a cyclical turn. The bond market now is over. The 40-year bull market in bonds is finished.
Yeah.
So this is commodities are now in charge. Paper assets that have been running the show for 40 years, that period is over. Russia is not stupid. They kind of forced this change right now. They forced the collapse of the dollar and the fiat money system and the rise of commodities. They're a huge commodity producer. The ruble is hitting new highs. It's higher now than before the invasion. The ruble is probably going to be one of the strongest currencies in the world going forward. It's a commodity-based currency. They've got China, Iran, Russia, India, all aligned on one, South Africa, South America, Mexico. They're all lining up behind commodities, and Russia, essentially. So the U.S. is, I'm not sure they're playing this very well. The narrative of countries are going to outlaw Bitcoin to countries are going to start panic buying Bitcoin. That's the difference. So there's a few countries are still in the frame of mind that they need to outlaw or regulate Bitcoin, and particularly in the U.S. when you hear people like Brad Sherman or Elizabeth Warren, or there's another congressperson out in California now who's attacking El Salvador, and we need to protect the dollar from El Salvador.
My gosh.
Okay, so these people, I mean, Liz Warren has her head so far up her ass that it's like a contortionist's dream. I mean, she should be at Le Cirque du Soleil doing contortions. I mean, I've never seen such an ill-informed, financially illiterate fuckwit in my life. And she's actually in a position of power and people listen to her. That's very sad for America. It's America's loss. The rest of the world's looking at that, rubbing their hands and saying, keep talking, bitch, because we got the commodities. And we're gonna be running the show soon, and you're gonna be out there sucking cock in the parking lot for $2. Have at it, bitch. Pretty much. I'm sorry to be so frank, but that's life, baby. She's a useful idiot. She works for the lobbyists on Wall Street, and she gets paid to say stupid shit. And that's dumb because she's disgraced herself, her family, and her friends are now, they've been disgraced. And I think that's very stupid. So is it evil? I mean, evil requires some modicum of intelligence. Crooks tend to be kind of smart, but she's not even smart enough to be a crook. She's just smart enough to be a stooge. And this was the second worst mistake that China has ever made by getting rid of the miners, as they did. It had absolutely no impact on Bitcoin. The hash rate's now already at new all-time high. They're at a disadvantage, a strategic disadvantage, having done that particular act. But this is China's curse, is that whenever they're on the cusp of a major win, they tend to blow themselves up. Fractionalization, just like the protocol is decentralized, so too will the world and the powers of the world, the countries of the world, and the people of the world. So we're going to have, if you look at an old map of the United States from 200 years ago, there were something like 150 nations in America, of Native Americans.
Yes.
And that's where we're going back to. We're going to go back to thousands of nations around the world running their micronations, but everyone will be on a Bitcoin standard. So it'll be very holistic, very organic, be able to trade with, everyone will be able to trade with each other with perfect money. There'll be very little violence because Bitcoin monetizes peace and love, and it demonetizes war and hate. I've explained why that is before, because it's unconfiscatable. So you cannot use violence, like Paul Krugman suggests, to take other countries' stuff. You'd have to approach them with something on offer that they're willing to trade with. In this case, it would be with Bitcoin. You want diversity, you want biodiversity. We're leaving, hopefully, an era where everything became monocultures. The U.S. is experimenting with the monoculture of what's called cultural Marxism. That experiment will fail, as it always fails. I see Louis C.K. just won a Grammy Award for Best Comedy Record for the year. So I think the Me Too movement is dead, finally.
I'm canceled.
Elon Musk is now going to be big in Twitter. I think they'll bring Donald Trump back. So We're going to have a discourse again. We're going to have people able to have free speech. We'll make a comeback because right now free speech has been neutered, like the electronic bull outside of this convention. No balls.
Yeah.
With the lack of testosterone in society is causing a collapse in society. These other countries are not afraid of balls, and they'll be in charge. So America has to decide: do we want to be taking orders from other countries because we don't like balls, or are we going to man up and say we have balls and we're not going to take orders from India, China, Russia, and Iran? We're at the risk of being a subservient housekeeping, houseboys, rent boys. There's a nation of rent boys in America that'll be servicing Iranian, Chinese, Russian, and Indian men and women. That's what we're going to end up doing, Scott. Unless we get fucking our balls out and start to be, represent that we have values here. So Bitcoin, everything about Bitcoin represents everything that you would find in the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. Easy thing to do is just to buy Bitcoin, accumulate Bitcoin, promote Bitcoin, and it's like having balls. If you're a woman and you want to have balls and you want to compete like a man, buy Bitcoin. If you're a man and you want to stop being without balls,
or just have bigger ones,
have bigger balls, buy Bitcoin, and you will take care of your gonad problem. So Bitcoin are basically our balls. That's I think what we're saying here, Scott.